1989,
y fundamos la iglesia Emanuel en Santiago de Cuba,
and we started the church Emmanuel in Santiago de Cuba,
la cual pastoreamos por 23 años.
which we pastored for 23 years.
En todos estos años trabajamos y levantamos 41 iglesias en la isla de Cuba.
In all these years, we worked and we were able to bring up 41 churches
Hasta el día de hoy siguen funcionando por la gracia de Dios,
that, thanks to God, they are still in operation in Cuba,
de las cuales somos sus apóstoles.
and we are their apostles.
El régimen cubano intenta absorber a todos en la isla de Cuba,
The Cuban regime tries to absorb everybody in the island of Cuba
para que se conviertan en parte de la maquinaria represiva.
so that they somehow convert and be part of the repressive machinery.
Ofrece lo que sea a cambio de que le sirvan.
They offer anything so that they serve them.
No comulgar con su ideología ni ceder a su oferta es suficiente para convertirse en un objetivo militar dentro de la isla.
Not to agree with them and not to accept their offers is enough to become a repressive target in the island.
Es aquí cuando comienza la travesía agonizante de una vida sentenciada por un régimen.
And it is here when the agonizing life of a trajectory that is marked by the state starts in this island.
Un régimen que no solo esclaviza,
A regime that not only enslaves,
sino que aterra y trata de reducir a nada a cada uno de sus opositores.
but that also brings terror and tries to reduce to nothing to each one of each one of the opposition.
El régimen de la isla castiga a las instituciones,
The regime in this island
a los,
punishes the institutions,
a los ministerios y a los creyentes que no aceptan su ideología,
punishes all the faithful, everybody that does not accept their ideology,
arrebatándole cada uno de sus derechos,
taking away each one of their rights,
no permitiéndoles ocupar ningún puesto de trabajo dentro de la isla,
not allowing them any position of work inside the island,
siendo descalificados donde quiera que vayan por órdenes militares al frente para reprimirlo de esta manera.
being disqualified anywhere they go by military orders in order to repress them in this way.
Sus hijos son acosados en las escuelas,
Their children are harassed in the schools.
son avergonzados públicamente,
They're ashamed publicly.
son golpeados dentro de la escuela por sus profesores.
They're hurt and they receive blows inside the schools, even by their teachers.
Como en el caso de mis dos hijas, Berenice y Elisama,
As in the case of my two daughters, Bernice and Alexandra.
las cuales eran constantemente abusadas por sus profesores dentro de las escuelas.
They were constantly abused by their teachers inside the schools.
Constantemente eran amenazadas
Constantly, they were threatened
para ser enviadas a escuelas de conductas, escuelas que son reconocidas como cárceles para niños.
to be sent to schools of conduct. These are schools that are prisons for children.
Todos los organismos del régimen cubano son activados en un programa represivo contra los creyentes.
All the organisms of the Cuban regime are activated so that they repress those that are faithful.
Todas las iglesias, las instituciones
All the churches, all the institutions
son abusadas por el régimen cobrándole altos precios de la electricidad.
they are abused by the regime, charging them very high cost of electricity.
Le impiden construir locales de reuniones.
They do not allow them to build centers of assembly.
Le impiden construir casas.
They do not allow them to build homes.
Y si alguna tiene permiso de construcción, hacen lo que sea para tratar de anulárselo.
And if any of them finally gets a permit for construction, they do anything that they can to try to make it void and null.
Para de esta manera provocar una crisis, para arruinar la vida de cada creyente de las instituciones y arruinarle toda su vida dentro de la isla.
So that in this way they can provoke a crisis and just basically ruin the life of anybody that is a believer in the island.
Desde que tomaron el poder,
Since they came to power,
suspendieron el derecho a las nuevas organizaciones
they suspended the rights to the new organization
de registrarse y tener derecho legal dentro de la isla.
to register and to have legal rights inside the island.
arrebatándole así el derecho de poder operar con toda libertad dentro de la isla.
taking away the right to be able to operate legally and rightfully inside the island,
Construyendo de esta manera un estado de ilegalidad y clandestinidad de las funciones de las instituciones dentro de la isla.
building this way a state of illegality and a clandestine state of these institutions inside the island.
Quien no sirve a los intereses del régimen cubano sufre el castigo de ser regulado dentro del país.
Who does not serve the interests of the Cuban government suffers them in their hands,
Impidiéndole así de gozar el derecho de libertad, de salir y entrar dentro del país.
and so we would like to have the right to be able to go in and out of the country, but they do not allow it.
Incluso son regulados nacionalmente, impidiéndoles entrar en diferentes ciudades dentro del mismo país.
Actually, they're regulated in such a way that they cannot even go into certain cities or towns, even inside the country, the island.
Y para el colmo, muchísimos hasta hoy
And many, up to today,
sufren el abuso de no poder salir de sus propias casas,
suffer the abuse of not even being able to come out of their own homes,
dándole así su casa por cárcel,
so that their home is a prison,
por la idea falsa de que las calles son de Fidel.
because of the false idea that the streets belong to Fidel.
Esto significa que las calles son del régimen.
So this means that the streets belong to the regime.
Por lo tanto, quien no se suma a su pandilla
Therefore, those that are not with them
no tiene derecho como cubano de caminar libremente en las calles de su barrio ni de su país.
do not have the right to freely walk in the streets of their country.
Si esta primera fase no doblega a la persona,
If this first phase
entonces,
does not make the person finally cede,
entonces pasan a una segunda fase.
then they go to a second phase,
El despojo de todas tus pertenencias,
and that is to take away all of your belongings
bajo leyes impuestas y fabricadas para reprimir al pueblo cubano,
under laws that are there imposed to repress the Cuban people.
Los militares dirigentes dirigen y lanzan las organizaciones y aplican leyes manipuladoras, arrebatándole así sus casas.
The military people bring about laws and take away their homes.
Te arrebatan tus tierras,
They
tus
take
animales,
away your lands, your animals.
incluso intentan arrebatarte tus propios hijos.
They even try to take away from you your own children.
Demuelen tus propiedades muchas veces
Many times they demolish your property.
para de esta manera crear el terror dentro de la isla en medio de los cubanos.
So in this way, they create terror among people of Cuba inside the island.
Exhiben el hecho represivo para crear el pánico en la población.
And they show these repressive measures so that panic is created in the population.
Luego de todo esto, proceden a una fase aún más peligrosa,
And after all this, they go on to an even more dangerous phase,
la fabricación de delitos para criminalizar y arrebatarte la libertad.
which is the fabrication of different things that supposedly you have done wrong in order to take away your liberty.
El régimen te encarcela y ya adentro activa agresores, simulando muchas veces ser presos.
The regime brings you into jail, and then many times they activate simulations that you are in jail.
Y estos son agentes encubiertos a la orden del régimen para ajustarle cuenta a todo el que se opone al régimen dentro de una prisión.
And these are undercover people that come to all of the persons that do not agree with the system, and they make them pay for it.
La vida de cualquier cubano corre peligro.
The life of any Cuban is in danger.
Actualmente vemos cómo pandillas asaltan las casas de muchas personas dignas que no se han prestado al juego diabólico de esclavizar al pueblo cubano.
Right now we see how many gang up and assault homes of people that have not wanted to accept the Cuban regime.
Sus casas son asaltadas y golpeados dentro de sus propias casas.
Their homes are assaulted and they receive blows and torture even inside their own homes.
Con cualquier tipo de armas,
With any type of weapon,
los policías disparan a la población que reclama derechos.
the police shoots to the population that demands rights.
Estos abusan y gozan de impunidad.
They abuse and they are impunity. They receive impunity.
Respaldado por leyes criminales que justifican matar al propio cubano por una mal llamada revolución.
Backed up by supposed laws that justify these terrible acts.
Muchos de los ejemplos que le he mencionado hoy
Many of the examples that I have mentioned today
no son historias inventadas.
are not fabricated histories.
Las hemos vivido en nuestra propia carne,
We have lived them ourselves.
viviendo hasta 5 detenciones en menos de una semana.
We have lived up to 5 times being detained in just 1 week
Por un programa de acoso y de hostigamiento para desestabilizar nuestra vida y nuestra propia familia.
harassing us in order to bring lack of stability even in our own family.
Personalmente he sido víctima de innumerables interrogatorios prolongados por horas.
Personally, I have been a victim of so many interviews that have been prolonged and prolonged by so many hours,
Encerrado en lugares muy estrechos,
all closed up in places that are very narrow,
con un clima a máxima potencia todo el día,
with a climate that is very, very hot all day long,
sin agua,
without
sin
water,
comida,
without food,
sin protección física.
without physical protection.
Hoy tristemente toda mi familia está afectada físicamente.
Today, sadly, all of my family is affected physically.
Psicológicamente mi familia también ha sido afectada gracias a las acciones represivas de una mal llamada revolución.
Psychologically, my family has also been abused due to the repressions of a wrongly called revolution.
2 veces hemos sido desalojados de nuestros hogares, lanzándonos a la calle.
Twice we have been taken out of our homes, throwing us in the streets,
En el año 2007 y en el año 2016.
in 2007 and in 2016.
Nuestras casas, bienes materiales,
Our homes, all of our material goods,
toda nuestra tecnología, la iglesia en general,
all of our technology, the church in general,
fueron demolidas y decomisados todos nuestros bienes.
were demolished and all of our belongings were confiscated.
Nuestras propiedades fueron expropiadas,
Our properties were taken away.
nuestros templos demolidos,
Our temples were demolished.
nuestros animales
Our animals
que teníamos dentro del hogar, la
that we
policía política la repartió a su voluntad al pueblo.
in our home, the political police just spread it away as they wanted to.
No hay mortal que se recupere de una oleada represiva como esta.
There is no one that can come about well in front of such repression.
Los traumas causados
The
a
traumas
nuestros hijos,
that are caused in
a
our
mi
children,
esposa,
my wife,
a la iglesia,
the church,
han sido irreversibles.
have been irreversible.
Mis hijas y mi esposa todavía duermen en sus camas saltando en las madrugadas.
My daughters and my wife, still when they sleep at night, they jump.
Todavía mi esposa se levanta en la madrugada con la presión en 240 puntos, casi de morir.
My wife still wakes up in the middle of the night with the blood pressure in 240, almost dying.
Estando vivo por la misericordia de Dios.
We are alive because of God's mercy.
En la isla la vida comienza a peligrar.
In the island, life is in danger.
La amenaza de muerte se anuncia delante de ti descaradamente.
The death threat is just in front of your face all the time.
Inician un ciclo de accidente como nos ha pasado muchas veces a nosotros en carretera.
They start the cycle of accidents, like it has happened to us many times in the roads.
En una ola represiva comienzan los asaltos,
In a repression way, we start receiving assaults,
los actos de repudio.
repudiation acts.
Los vándalos comienzan a asaltar tu casa como nuestra casa fue asaltada muchas veces.
The vandals start assaulting your homes as our home was assaulted so many times.
Comienzan a haber acciones represivas de golpes y palizas contra los pastores muchas veces.
A number of repression activities and blows to the pastors start happening.
Se te acaba la libertad dentro de la isla.
You have no freedom inside of the
Se
island.
acaba la paz, se acaba el derecho.
You have no peace. You have no rights.
Todo va muriendo por la
Everything,
represión de una maquinaria asesina llamada revolución.
everything dies because of the repression of an assassin machinery called revolution.
Todo para preservar el poder a los que lo
Everything
tienen secuestrado.
to preserve the power, those that have sequestered it.
Exilio
Exile
es la palabra que comienza a entrar en tu corazón.
is the word that starts coming into your heart,
Sea voluntad propia
whether it's your own will
o la mayoría de las veces obligado por el mismo régimen.
or most times forced by the regime
El
itself.
verdadero nombre es destierro.
The true name is that we become a diaspora.
En muchos de los casos nunca más vuelves a pisar la tierra de Cuba.
In many cases, you never go back to the island again.
Cuando se deja allí familia, padres, parejas, hijos, hermanos,
And yet you have to leave behind many times your spouse, your parents, your children, your brothers, sisters.
los cuales no sabes cuándo lo volverás a ver.
And you just don't know when is it that you will be able to see them again.
El 24 de julio del 2022,
On July 24th of
junto a mi
2022,
esposa y a
along
mis
with my
hijas
wife and my
menores,
daughters,
tuve que abandonar la isla de Cuba.
I had to abandon the island of Cuba.
Todo lo que me rodeaba
Everything that used to surround me
sufría el azote de la dictadura cubana.
was suffering the beatings of the Cuban dictatorship.
La dictadura nos dio 30 días para salir del país,
The dictatorship gave us 30 days to abandon the
de
island,
donde nunca anhelamos salir.
where we never wanted to leave.
Quedaron atrás mis dos hijas mayores,
Behind left were my two
Cuatro
older
nietos.
children, 4 grandchildren,
mi madre y mis hermanos,
my mother and my brothers,
todas las iglesias y miles de líderes,
all of the churches and thousands of leaders,
discípulos,
disciples,
los cuales en menos de 24 horas no nos volvimos a ver más.
that in less than 24 hours we couldn't see again.
No pudimos ni siquiera despedirnos de muchos de nuestros familiares.
We couldn't even say goodbye to many of our relatives.
Hoy mi hija mayor Susana sufre de un cáncer de seno.
Today, my oldest daughter, Susana, suffers of breast cancer.
Llora a diario,
She cries daily,
mas yo como su padre no puedo estar a su lado.
but I, as her dad, I cannot be with her.
Nadie merece huir fuera de su país.
No one deserves to live out of their country.
Nadie merece estar lejos de su familia
No one deserves to be far from their family
para hallar la paz y la libertad.
to find freedom and peace.
Por esta razón, hoy denunciamos los crímenes del régimen cubano.
It is for this reason that today we denounce the crimes of the Cuban regime,
Crímenes contra la humanidad.
crimes against humanity.
Y pedimos justicia y libertad para el pueblo cubano.
And we ask for justice and freedom for the Cuban
Los de adentro y los de afuera.
people, the ones in the island and the ones
El
outside
pueblo
the island.
cubano necesita dos cosas.
The Cuban people, they need two things.
Necesita patria
They need to have a homeland
y necesita vida.
and they need to have life.
América es el guardián de los derechos elementales de los humanos,
The United States is the guardian of the elemental rights of the human race.
por lo cual es hora
Therefore, it is time
de que la relación con Cuba
that the relationship with Cuba
esté sustentada en principios que ayuden al cubano a poder tener una vida justa.
is sustained in the principles that are going to help the Cuban to have a fair way of life.
Por lo cual proponemos a la administración Biden
And we propose to the Biden administration
que exija al régimen cubano
that they demand the Cuban regime
que deje de reprimir y encarcelar a los ciudadanos
to stop repressing and incarcerating citizens
por hacer uso libre de su expresión,
only because they want to freely express themselves,
que detenga las sanciones,
that they stop the sanctions,
el encarcelamiento y todo tipo de castigo al cubano,
that they stop all types of punishments and incarceration of
por
the
el hecho de no ser comunista y exponer su criterio
just because they're not communists and because they are exposing their criteria
en cuanto al gobierno imperante.
as to the present government.
Que demuestren con evidencia
That they show with evidence
ante el mundo el cese de la pobreza y el hambre del pueblo cubano.
in the whole world how the Cuban people can stop being in such poverty,
dándole así a cada ciudadano cubano el derecho y el poder de desarrollar todo su potencial de trabajo.
giving this way to the Cuban people the right to develop their own potential of work and of life,
Que el cubano pueda abrir sus propios negocios.
that the Cuban be able to start their own businesses,
Que Cuba garantice un estado de derecho favorable a los cubanos
that
y no para el Partido Comunista.
Cuba can guarantee a federal state of law to the Cubans and not for the Communist Party.
Tercero,
Third,
todo ciudadano cubano
all Cuban citizens
que esté preso
that is in jail
bajo una sanción por manifestar su descontento hacia el régimen
under sanction just because they have manifested their lack of sympathy with the government
y por exigir sus derechos,
and because they demand their rights,
el régimen de La Habana lo libere inmediatamente.
that the Havana regime brings them into freedom completely and fast.
4. Que establezca La Habana un proceso justo para cambiar la constitución de la República de Cuba.
Fourth, that Havana establishes a fair process in order to bring change to the Republic of Cuba,
Para que de esta manera la constitución garantice la vida y la paz y el bienestar del pueblo y no de un partido.
so that in this way the Constitution guarantees the peace and the liberty and the rights of the people and not of a party.
Y 5.
And five,
Que el régimen de La Habana abra un proceso de transición
that the Havana regime starts the process of transition
para establecer un gobierno y un sistema democrático
in order to establish a government and a democratic system
donde el pueblo cubano pueda vivir libre
where the Cuban people can live free
y elegir democráticamente los líderes a dirigir dentro de la nación
and they
cubana.
can democratically select their own leaders that are going to be those that are going to preside into the Cuban government.
El pueblo cubano se merece disfrutar su patria y su libertad.
The Cuban people deserve to enjoy their homeland and their freedom.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Oregano. We appreciate your testimony. And now for Mr. Garcia Perez, please, the floor is yours.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos acá. Verdad que es muy emocionante el testimonio de
Thank you very much to all here. It is the testimony that I just heard is something that is highly touching.
Yo sé que muchas personas que nos están viendo por las redes sociales
I know that there are many persons that are seeing us in the social network,
no en Cuba, pero quizás algunas personas de mentalidad izquierdista pudieran asombrarse.
perhaps not in Cuba, but perhaps not in Cuba, but yes, many persons that have the tendency of having a left ideology.
Dirán, bueno, ¿qué hace allí un negro nacido y vive en Cuba, en un país con una maquinaria propagandística tan fuerte?
They can probably just be surprised and say to themselves, what is a black person there doing if that person was born in Cuba with such a propaganda machine that is so strong?
Sí, un negro para hablar de libertad religiosa y racismo.
Yes, here is a black person to talk about religious freedom and and freedom of race.
Pero aquí estoy. Mi nombre es Jorge Luis García Pérez Antúnez.
But here I am. My name is Jorge Luis Pérez Antúnez.
Soy un hombre que tuve que permanecer 17 años y 38 días de mi vida en las cárceles.
I am a man that had to be 17 years and 38 days of my life in prison.
Había cometido el gran crimen de ser opositor negro en un país comunista.
My crime was that I was a black opponent in a communist country.
Y aunque me considero un testimonio vivo de violaciones de todo tipo, tanto religiosas como políticas,
And even though I am a living testimony of all types of violations, religious violations and political violations,
no vengo aquí a hablar de mis experiencias personales, porque serían tantas que...
I don't come here to talk about my own personal experiences. They are very many.
Pero sí estoy aquí denunciando el asesinato clínicamente inducido
I am here, however, to denounce the killing, clinically induced,
de que está siendo víctima mi hermano, el preso político y líder religioso
of the
Loreto Hernández García.
one that my brother is being a victim of. My brother and religious leader Humberto
Loreto Hernández García,
Loreto Hernández García,
quien se encuentra en un hospital de la ciudad de Santa Clara,
who is in a hospital in the city of Santa Clara,
luego de ser conducido por el agravamiento severo de su estado de salud.
where he was taken because of the worsening state of his health.
Estoy aquí también en nombre de su esposa,
I am here also,
la también presa política Donaira Pérez Paceño.
his wife, also political prisoner, Donaida Pérez
Paseos.
Paseiros.
Ambos son sacerdotes yoruba,
They are both Yoruba priests.
quienes en el momento de su encarcelamiento, o sea, para estar el día 11 de julio,
In the moment of when they went to jail in July 11th,
presidían la Asociación Yorubas Libres de Cuba.
they were the presidents of the Association Yorubas Libres de Cuba.
Y aunque este es un evento más bien centrado en el tema religioso,
And though this is an event that is mainly focused in the religious topic,
en el caso de los yorubas es imposible separar el tema racial del religioso.
in the case of the Yorubas, it is actually impossible to separate the religion from the race,
Dado que el mismo origen africano y participación de negros en dichas prácticas.
because of the African origin and the participation of blacks in this religion.
Comenzaré diciéndoles que a los miembros se les somete a amenazas para que desistan de seguir practicando esa religión.
I will start by telling you that the members are threatened in order for them to stop practicing that religion.
Pero para entender en profundidad las violaciones a las libertades religiosas y raciales en Cuba,
But to really understand completely and profoundly the lack of liberty, race, and also religious liberty in Cuba,
para entender en su magnitud la falta de libertades y el clima de hostigamiento,
in order to really understand completely the climate of harassment,
tenemos primeramente que ubicarnos en el propio contexto en que vive nuestro país.
we have to first of all place ourselves in the concept that our country lives.
Cuba es un sistema ateo y materialista,
Cuba is a system of government that is atheist and materialistic.
racista por esencia y enemigo de Dios y de cualquier fe.
It is also racist by essence. It is an enemy of God, an enemy of any belief of faith.
Los sacerdotes, tanto cristianos como yoruba, y el pastor cristiano,
Priests, whether they are Christian priests, Yoruba priests, and the Christian pastors,
sea cual sea su denominación, los musulmanes, en fin, cualquier practicante,
be it what it be, their faith, Muslims, anyone that practices any faith,
que se someta a hacerlo fuera del control estatal, es considerado su enemigo en potencia.
is already an enemy of the government.
Los jóvenes de mi generación nunca olvidaremos frases como la religión es el opio de los pueblos.
The youth of my generation will never forget phrases as religion is the opium of society,
O que ustedes los religiosos son la quinta columna de la contrarrevolución.
or that you, the religious people, are the fifth column of the counter-revolution.
Mi sobrino,
My nephew,
el joven sacerdote Dairon Hernández Pérez,
the young priest Dairo Hernández Pérez,
hijo de los presos políticos Loreto Hernández y Donaira Pérez,
son of the political prisoners Loreto Hernández and Donaida Pérez,
ha venido siendo víctima de una intensa y feroz persecución y hostigamiento.
he has been a victim of an intense and fierce persecution and harassment
para forzarlo al servicio militar obligatorio en Cuba.
in order to force him to go to the military service in Cuba.
Y con ello, obviamente, agravar el dolor y la situación de sus padres encarcelados.
And with this, obviously, to worsen the pain and the situation of their incarcerated parents in Cuba.
No hace mucho,
Not too long ago,
el casi niño recibió una despiadada golpiza
when he was still just almost a child, he
en plena
received
calle
a terrible beating right in the streets
que lo dejó casi inconsciente.
that left them almost unconscious.
Los personeros del régimen castrista
The people of the government
no niegan su odio a la religión
do not deny their hatred to religion
y a su mentalidad racista.
and to their racist mentality.
Mi hermano, en el momento de ser llevado a prisión,
My brother, when he was being taken to prison,
le dijo textualmente un oficial:
an officer told him this textually.
vamos a ver si tus santos y tu religión te van a sacar de la prisión.
Let's see if all your saints and your religion, if they're going to bring you out of prison.
Te vamos a eliminar
We're going to eliminate
por
you
negro,
because you're black,
santero y contrarrevolucionario.
because you're santero, and because you do not agree with the revolution.
Hay que tener una nula sensibilidad humana
We have to have such a lack of human sensitivity.
Hay que ser cruel para decirle a un ser humano
Someone has to be very, very cruel to tell
que acaba de sufrir un preinfarto:
a human that just suffered a pre-cardiac infarct,
mira, negro,
Look.
contrarrevolucionario,
black, opponent of the revolution.
a nosotros no nos importa que del criterio médico,
We don't care about your medical condition,
porque si, como él dice, tu salud no es compatible con el régimen de la prisión,
because if it says there in your medical record that your health is not compatible with the regime and the jail,
mucho mejor para nosotros.
it's even better for us.
Así te mueres y es una comida menos.
That way you die and it's one less mouth to feed.
Y esto no es tomado de una novela de ciencia ficción.
And this is not out of a novel or, a
Esto fue las
science
palabras
fiction.
textuales
These were the textual
de un
words
oficial de la policía
of
política
an officer of the political police
a mi hermano, el preso político y líder religioso, Loreto Hernández.
said to my brother, the political prisoner and priest of the Yoruba religion, Loreto Hernandez.
Pero la persecución religiosa no culmina ahí.
But the religious persecution does not end there.
Meses atrás
Months before,
llegó un oficial hasta su celda
an officer came to his jail
y le gritó en tono provocador:
and told him in provocation,
yo no creo ni en opositores y mucho menos en religiosos.
I don't believe in any person that opposes the revolution and much less in religious people.
Escuchen ahora.
And listen to this now.
Para nosotros,
For us,
la única religión es la revolución.
the only religion is the revolution.
Y nuestro único Dios
And
es
our only God is who?
Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro.
A lo que respondió mi hermano Lorenzo:
To which my brother Loreto replied,
si usted no cree en opositores, yo tampoco creo en comunistas.
if you don't believe in people that oppose the government, I also do not believe in communists.
Y si su única religión es la revolución
And if your only religion is the revolution,
y su Dios es Fidel,
and if your God is Fidel,
mi religión es la Yoruba
my religion is the Yoruba
y mi
religion,
Dios es Ogún.
and my God is Ogun.
Fue pateado por los pasillos, golpeados,
He was beaten up in the hallways, he was kicked everywhere,
y lanzado escaleras abajo.
and he was thrown down the number of stairs.
Y no concluye la persecución ahí.
And it doesn't finish there.
Hace apenas unos días,
Just a few days
hubo una
ago,
protesta pacífica en su prisión, donde se encuentra,
a peaceful protest in the prison where he is,
después de culparlo a él
after they blamed him,
y de someterlo a otra brutal paliza,
and after they gave him another brutal beating,
le dijo el alto oficial de la seguridad del Estado.
the high officer from the state security told him,
Y disculpe la expresión porque la voy a decir textual:
I'm sorry about what I'm going to say, but I'm
nunca
going
te
to say,
olvides, negro de mierda.
never forget
Una frase muy típica en Cuba,
you black of shit,
que nosotros nos pasamos tu religión
that we
por ese lugar.
are going to clean our behind with your religion.
Y volvieron a la misma historia de que el único Dios es Fidel y la religión la revolución.
And they went to the same story that the only God is Fidel and the only religion is the revolution.
Yeah.
Pero la expresión más genuina de ensañamiento y crueldad contra su persona
But the most genuine expression of cruelty against this person
fue cuando altos oficiales de la policía política
was when high officers of the political police
le comunicaron
communicated to him
que a pesar de que la comisión médica había aprobado su licencia extrapenal,
that even though the clinical community had approved his license,
no se le podía otorgar por intereses de la seguridad del Estado.
they couldn't allow it to him because of interest of the state security.
Es decir,
In other words,
que por interés de la policía política,
because of interest of the
mi hermano, el
police,
líder religioso
my brother, the
y preso
religious
político,
leader and the political prisoner,
Loreto
Loreto Hernandez,
está condenado a morir en la cárcel.
is condemned to die in prison.
Aunque la represión en Cuba por asuntos religiosos no solo se limita a mi hermano Loreto y a su esposa.
Even though, of course, I need to say that the repression in Cuba because of religious affairs is not limited only to my brother and his wife.
Tenemos los casos del pastor cristiano
We have the
Lorenzo
cases
Rosales,
of Lorenzo Rosales,
las
Christian
hermanas
pastor,
Isdaini,
the sisters Idalni,
los sistemas totalitarios de corte marxista
the totalitarian systems
se
that
forjan desde la premisa
are based from the premise
de la desvalorización y anulación del individuo.
of the devaluation and the lessening of the individual.
Para así poderlo manipular y confrontarlo los unos con los otros.
So they can manipulate them and they can face them ones against others.
Vengo de un país donde muy pequeño
I come from a country where
se nos utilizaba en la burla contra los sacerdotes.
from very young we were used in order to mock priests,
Los monaguillos y creyentes
priests of the Catholic religion and all of the people that used to be faithful or serve in church.
formo parte de una generación que teníamos que asistir, los que nos atrevíamos, a asistir a misa a escondida para no ser delatados.
I am part of a generation that we needed to go to mass hiding because otherwise we were going to be in great trouble.
Durante mis años de prisión,
During
fueron
my
varios,
years in prison, and there were
fui
many,
testigo de reclusos cristianos
I was a witness of Christian prisoners
que fueron obligados a pisotear, escupir y quemar la Biblia.
that were forced to just step and kick and burn the Bible.
Los campos de trabajo forzado, conocidos como UMAC,
The forced labor camps known as UMAC
son testigos de la más abyecta miseria humana de los comunistas.
are witness of the most human misery that is lived because of the communists.
Hoy me indigna
Today,
cuando veo cómo unos pocos enarbolan el asesinato de Floyd como bandera de lucha contra el racismo.
I feel indignation when a few bring about the flag of the killing of Floyd as a fight against racism.
Y estos seguidores de Floyd
And these followers of Floyd,
olvidan que precisamente fueron
they forget
muchos de ellos
that precisely it was many of them
los que desataron la ola de violencia y racismo más crítica de los últimos años.
the ones that leashed out the wave of racism and violence most critical in the last few years.
Porque para muchos parece que el racismo solamente existe cuando el ataque viene del blanco hacia el negro.
Because for many, it would seem that racism is only when the attack comes from the white to the black.
Y tan racista fue el Ku Klux Klan como los Light Matter
But
y los Panteras Negras.
the Ku Klux Klan is racist, but also the Black Panthers are racist, and also the Black Lives Matter.
Imagínense ustedes cuánto Floyd
Imagine how much Floyd
no hay en Cuba que los están pisoteando en estos momentos y están pidiendo oxígeno igual que Floyd.
how many in Cuba are being kicked right now and are also asking for oxygen like Floyd did.
Por eso me indigna la postura ambigua,
That's why I feel
rara de la administración de Biden,
indignated about this posture of Biden's administration that is very strange,
y muchos del Partido Demócrata
and many of the Democratic Party
que incitaron
that
a los Light
incited
Matter
the Black Lives Matter.
Sin embargo, no han tenido muchos de ellos
However, many of them have not had
el aquello de pronunciarse por las víctimas tanto de la represión racial como religiosa en mi país.
they have not had the courage to pronounce themselves against because of the victims of the people that have received repression for political or religious freedom in my country.
Antes de concluir, insisto,
And before I finish, I
el
insist
régimen de mi país es racista por naturaleza.
that the regime in my country is racist by nature.
Usa el tema racial para conveniencia y burla.
They use the racial theme for convenience and for mockery.
La religión yoruba, además de tabú, es ridiculizada.
The Yoruba religion, besides being taboo, is also ridiculed.
Claro,
Of course,
salvo la flamante sociedad cultural yoruba.
except that the high Yoruba culture,
Que es un apéndice cultural y político del régimen,
cultural and political appendix of the regime,
porque en Cuba solo existe la libertad religiosa para apoyar la dictadura.
because in Cuba, the religious freedom only exists in order to support the dictatorship,
Pero jamás
but never
para practicar la religión fuera del control del régimen.
to truly practice religion out of the government control.
Para ellos
For them
y para todos y cada una de las personas víctimas de discriminación religiosa, racial, política o étnica,
and for all that are victims of and are suffering lack of religion, lack of freedom of religion, political, ethnical, racial,
o de cualquier otro tipo,
or
pido
any
solidaridad.
other type, I
y respaldo.
ask for solidarity and support.
Muchas gracias. Viva la
Thank you very
libertad
much.
religiosa.
And viva la libertad religiosa.
Thank you for your testimony, and we will now here have some of the remarks that were submitted by Father Montes de Oca, presented to us by our own Commissioner Schneck. And then following this, Commissioner Schneck, why don't you ask a question of our two guests, and then we'll conclude the hearing after that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davey. I think actually because of the fact that we're a bit over time at this point, I will not read the excerpt from the extraordinary testimony from Father de Oca. However, we will be posting that testimony on the USERF website, and I would encourage you to look at it. It's a very powerful statement, and I encourage you all to look at it. I have one question to pose to both of the witnesses. And first, let me just say, I'm here today as an appointee of President Biden to this commission, and I'm proud to be representing him here today. But nevertheless, I was extraordinarily moved by the powerful testimony that I heard today, and I was inspired by the moral righteousness that I heard in the testimonies today. And I thank both the witnesses. The brief question that I have, since both you, Pastor Toledano, and you, Mr. Garcia, still have representatives from your many churches still active in Cuba, and your many practitioners of the Free Yoruba community in Cuba. Are they experiencing increased pressure from the government now because of your presence here in the United States today? Does your exile impact your communities in Cuba?
El señor desea saber si el hecho de que ustedes están en Estados Unidos está teniendo algún efecto sobre sus comunidades que ustedes dejaron atrás en Cuba.
Bueno, sí, paradójicamente.
Well, yes, paradoxically,
Paradójicamente el efecto ha sido positivo porque nosotros nos hemos convertido en sus voces.
well, actually, paradoxically, the result has been a positive result because we have become their voices.
el solo hecho de tener la posibilidad de tener esta participación
Just to have the possibility to participate
contribuye poderosamente a visibilizarlo,
in
que es lo que más
activities
necesitan esas víctimas.
like this contributes that we can become visual, we can become real, which is something that they need over there.
El exilio para nosotros, para ambos, ha sido una decisión extremadamente difícil.
The exile for us has been an extremely difficult decision.
Pero creo que el mantener sistemáticamente el contacto, periódicamente el contacto con las víctimas de la represión, con nuestras respectivas organizaciones, creo que eso ha sido un salto sumamente positivo para las víctimas.
But I believe that the fact that we have maintained constant communication with all those victims has brought about a positive result.
En nuestro caso, no creo que el exilio sea bueno para nadie.
In our case as well, I don't believe that exile is good for anyone.
Se divide la familia, se divide la sociedad, se divide el ministerio.
Families are divided, society is divided, the ministry is divided.
Lo que nosotros como cubanos somos guerreros.
But we as Cubans, we fight.
Y toda acción que pasa la convertimos en algo positivo.
And any action, we try to see it and we try to convert it into something positive.
El estar aquí no significa que la lucha ha terminado.
That we are here does not mean that the fight is over.
Yo no renuncio a mi país ni renuncio a la función que tenemos en esta tierra.
I don't renounce my country and I don't renounce to what we need to do in this in earth here.
Pero la realidad es que ahora mismo en Cuba tenemos líderes que lloran
The reality is right now in Cuba we have leaders that cry
por nuestra ausencia,
because we are not there.
familias que lloran, nuestras hijas, nuestros nietos.
Relatives that cry, our daughters, our grandchildren.
Cuando hablamos por videollamada tenemos que tragarnos nuestras lágrimas.
When we see them and we talk to them by video call, we have to hold back the tears.
Y tenemos una sociedad,
And we have a society,
una familia y una iglesia
a family, a church
que no aceptan
that does not accept
el tener que exiliarse para alcanzar libertad.
having to go into exile in order to reach freedom.
En nuestra experiencia el exilio ha sido lo más duro que ha pasado para nuestra vida.
In our experience, exile is about the hardest thing that our family has gone
Y es lo
through.
más difícil que está pasando ahora mismo con nuestra gente en Cuba.
And it's the most difficult thing that is happening right now with our people in Cuba.
Esto lo pasa un opositor, sea de cualquier índole.
This happens to any opposition leader of any opposition at all.
Esto no debería de pasarle a ningún ser humano.
This should not happen to any person.
Por eso cualquier trato con el régimen cubano, con cualquier otro régimen sobre la tierra, sea Venezuela, sea Corea del Norte,
That is why any dialogue as far as any covenant with any dictatorship, whether it's Cuba, whether it's Venezuela, or any other dictatorship in the earth,
no es justo que se procese ningún tipo de relación con ningún otro régimen sobre la sangre y el sufrimiento de los ciudadanos de su país.
is not fair, because there should be no covenant, no agreement of any type that is based on the blood that so many of their children have suffered.
Por eso todo tipo de relación debe de ser condicionada
That's why any type of relation has to be conditioned
al beneficio de la sociedad.
to the benefit of the society.
No puede ser una relación que solamente beneficie la política
It cannot be a relationship that only benefits the politics
o que beneficie a un gobierno.
or that benefits a government.
El ser humano es la clave de todo.
Human beings are in the core of everything.
Y todo lo que esté fuera del beneficio del ser humano y sobre la sangre del ser humano también es un crimen.
And so anything that is outside of the well-being of the human being and of their blood is also a crime.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Let me thank our witnesses for their testimony, both of you and the two witnesses in the panel that preceded you. Let me also say that many of us stand strongly in solidarity with you in the struggle for liberty and freedom in Cuba. I have to say, as a Black American, as an African American, as a Presbyterian minister, as someone who has supported Black Lives Matter and the issue of George Floyd, I want to say that not all people who support that effort are racist, and that I strongly condemn, without any qualification, religious and human rights suppression anywhere, but particularly in Cuba. So I want you to know that you have solidarity with this person who supports Black Lives Matter, and you probably do with lots of others, and it would be worth an ongoing conversation and dialogue about that. But let me thank you. Let me say again, we really appreciate this crucial testimony. It's absolutely important to the advancement of freedom of religion or belief, not only in Cuba, but around the world. And your testimony helps us in our ability at USERF, at the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, to fulfill the mission that we've been given by the government of the United States. So thank you. Thank you for your enormous contributions and your enormous sacrifices to this effort. Let me also thank the American Museum of the Cuban Diaspora for hosting the hearing today. Thank you so much. And for all of the people watching this event online, we thank you as well. And finally, let me thank the USERF staff for putting all this together. Zach Uden, Jamie Staley, Veronica McCarthy, and Luke Wilson, and of course our Executive Director, Aaron Singsenship. So thank you all. And finally, Cuba remains a top priority for USERF. We ask you to visit our website for our reporting on Cuba and other countries that we monitor regularly. And with that, and all the passion and energy and commitment and sacrifice you bring to this effort, we will call this meeting adjourned, but the effort to secure freedom of religion or belief will never adjourn. We'll continue that. Thank you.